All right. Thank you very much for the kind words, and welcome, everyone. We're into November now. We're going into a busy time period when it comes to coding, billing, reimbursement, compliance, and related issues. Today we're going to go to the emergency department, one of my favorite departments in the hospital. One of my favorites because there's so much activity, wide variation in what we do, coding and billing challenges, etc. So I really enjoy working with the emergency department. Now, compliance issue. All right, let's go to slide number 2. Slide number 2, you can read a little bit about me if you wish. If you wish. Yes, I write, I travel, I consult, I do audits, I testify in court, etc. So that, I've had a lot of experience relative to coding, billing, reimbursement, and related compliance areas. Slide number 3 is a little bit of a disclaimer. I'm going to give you the very best I have today. Really what I'm going to do is to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you to think about some of these issues. For instance, what if you're in the ER and you are addressing a fracture of some sort, but it's the kind of fracture where you don't do much of anything. You don't do much of anything. For instance, a fractured toe. What do? Well, in some cases, you don't do anything. Some cases, you might buddy tape one toe to another. In other words, your activity is very minimal, very minimal. So the question becomes, should we really be coding fracture care in those cases? Now, that's going to be a challenge for you to answer. I'm not going to answer it for you as such, but you'll need to think about this, develop policies and associated procedures for coding and billing and diagnosis coding, etc., relative to these kinds of situations. All right, slide number 4. Emergency department - complicating factors, and we get into this almost immediately. First of all, we are going to be looking at both physician coding, professional coding, CMS 1500 claim form. We'll also be looking at the hospital coding, the facility coding, or some folks call it the technical component. So we'll be looking at both, and then we'll compare and contrast as we go through some of the exercises today. Now, almost immediately, even that very first sub-bullet, we have a complicating factor, and that is that we have a little note there that says, see also other providers / practitioners. All right, well, big deal. So are we dealing with non-physician practitioners, nurse practitioners, physician assistants, etc., or are we dealing with RNs, CMAs? What are we dealing with here in the emergency department? And this becomes a mess almost immediately. For instance, RNs, emergency department RNs, can, through the medical staff organization, be qualified to perform the EMTALA mandated medical screening examination. That's fine. We could have a long discussion of that. We're not going to do that in this particular workshop, but we could have a very long discussion about that in and of itself. What can they do? What can they not do? What should they do? Etc. Okay? And we also run into problems where a nurse may be providing some services in the ED, but then are we allowed to bill for those services if there is no incident to a physician service provided? So, we're on the very first substantive slide, and already in the first sub-bullet, we have some challenges. All right, now, from the coding and billing perspective, both on the physician side and on the hospital side, we have basically the same 3 general areas of concern relative to what we're doing. One are the evaluation and management codes, 9